I've always related to the ice type in Pokemon, and no, it's not because of an icy disposition or the fact that I have really bad circulation in my hands, making my hands incredibly cold all of the time, especially my fingers. Ice type has always felt like the red-headed child of the Pokemon types, which obviously I have experience with. And I've been out of the competitive scene for a very long time. Apart from Then We Fight videos, I'm not really delving into the deepest, darkest depths of the competitiveness in the Pokemon franchise. So I thought it's time to get myself caught up, and who better to explain why ice types have been saved in Pokemon than, of course, the world champ himself, Mr. Wolfie Glick. Let's see what we got.
Ice-type Pokemon have spent the better part of 3 decades being absolute dog water.
That's mean. It's really good offensively, right? That's what I used to hear a lot. I mean, it's good against dragons. So
sick designer at Game Freak was like, hey guys, what if we made a type with 4 weaknesses that only resisted itself? And their satanic, evil, twisted coworker was like, wow, great idea. And hey, what if we made all the Pokemon of that type slow and bulky?
Yeah, and this is actually how they sound as well. This is exactly how they sound. Were they all slow and bulky in the original generations? I'm thinking about like Cloyster, yes, slow, bulky, Dugong, Lapras, Jinx was there. Jinx was definitely there. Then there was Paloswine, that old evolution line, still Sfeel and Walrein and Glalie. Yeah, it's not really fast either. It's good offensively, but they don't really get an opportunity to use the offensiveness all that often because it's getting hit all of the time. And with a secondary type, and it can have a billion weaknesses. Just picture a Abomasnow. Just think about Abomasnow. Don't you feel bad for Abomasnow? You should.
Man, I sure do hate gamers. And then they kissed. And
oh, they did?
Ever since 1990.
That is so progressive.
There have been some ice-type Pokemon that have been okay at times, but for the vast majority of its lifespan, ice types have been the canned, boiled peanuts you bought one time thinking, I'll probably eat them eventually, but now it's been 5 years.
What is no, boiled peanuts are not a thing. That's not real. That's not real. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, what it looks like. Oh, is this good? This must be good. If people are making it this much, this has to be good. There must be a reason this is happening, surely.
It feels like a waste to throw them out, but also you'd rather starve than eat them. Which is why I made this video over a year ago before Scarlet and Violet came out.
The ice type is not balanced. Here's how to fix it. And Game Freak watched the video and they said, wow, this guy's got some good ideas. I wonder if he plays the game very often. And then they stole all of the ideas, surely, right? They did all the things that you wanted them to do.
I talked about how ice is a really bad type and my recommendations for how I would make it better.
For the hammer.
This was just a thought experiment. I didn't actually expect ice to receive any major changes since, well, it never has before.
That's what I kind of like is they're always updating things. They're always buffing things, nerfing things that were a little bit too strong. They took knockoff away from Weavile for some reason. Oh, never mind. I guess they gave it back. Oh, that was nice of them. That's how behind I am with the competitiveness. Everyone's running Terra Steel. What's all that about?
So
it's just a good defensive typing.
Imagine my surprise when not only did Scarlet and Violet introduce multiple ice-type Pokemon that people who aren't content creators would have a reason to use, but they also added one of the buffs to the ice type that I'd recommended in my video.
Okay, I don't know what proposed change 3 was. I assume it's changing the weather or giving the ice type some kind of defensive prowess that allows them to actually live more than 2.5 hits.
Obviously, this is just a coincidence. I seriously doubt that the big Pikachu himself actually watches my videos. What's more interesting to me, however, is that this buff that I recommended and that Game Freak actually implemented, well, it worked. For the first time,
it was just a good idea.
Ice has clawed its way out of the abyss at the bottom of the type chart and has finally become a respectable type.
Good job, guys.
Buff and why it works.
Holy Jesus Christ, that's an insane front squat. Oh my God, look at that's really heavy.
Though, we've got to talk about what was holding Ice back in the first place.
It just takes too many hits. Genuinely, it's pretty low base stats hold. There's not a huge amount of really, really powerful ice types out there, though there are some good ice type moves, and you can land blizzards all the time in the hail. It's got 110 base power, which is weaker than Thunder or Fire Blast. It also misses more often than Thunder or Fire Blast because it has 70 accuracy. I know Thunder also has that, but maybe they've debuffed Thunder. I'm now realizing all the move base power and accuracies are based off of things Generation 4 generally and below. So if something gets updated in the new games, I just don't know about it.
Short answer, everything. Ice's defensive relationships are the worst out of all of the 18 types. It's got 4 weaknesses, which the good people at Game Freak decided to balance by giving it 1 resistance. And which type does Ice resist?
Yeah, it's itself.
Of course.
I feel like ice should resist water because if water touched the ice and the ice is cold enough, the water will become the ice. So it makes sense that it would be resistant to it. Another little thought experiment. What if ice was also resistant to grass because grass withers and dies when the weather is too cold? So maybe it could be resistant to grass as well as being super effective against it. Just a thought experiment. Just doing some science here.
You know, one of the worst types in the game? That'll surely be useful. The design reason behind this was probably because ice is meant to be the glass cannon type, with the ability to hit 4 types for super effective damage.
Yeah, it's good offensively, but unfortunately just never uses it because it's not fast enough or even powerful enough generally to be able to use it. What's Delibird gonna do? Delibird gonna one-shot anything? No.
Unfortunately, Game Freak suddenly remembered how to balance the type chart and made 4 types resist ice, making our glass cannon more of a trash cannon.
Got him.
Oh, brother.
It doesn't help that
It is really sad that the best the ice type generally does is another type of Pokemon running an ice type move. Mostly it's just someone else, a dragon or a water type, just running Ice Beam, and that's the best that ice gets usually.
for so long, ice type Pokemon were given stats that really encouraged them to be slow and bulky, which is, you know, in complete contrast to how their type encourages them to be played.
Especially a Bomber Snow. This thing is just the saddest thing in the entire world. It's got like infinite weaknesses.
Let's look at all the ice type Pokemon in the first 6 generations that were given fast and offensive stats.
Frostlass and no, not that one. No, it's not. Lilies, no, not Lily. The Bombs, no, it's Walrein, no. Oh, Cryogonal. Does Cryogonal count? Probably not. It was Avalog. No, well, not Avalog. Actually, there's not. No, definitely not Avalog. Weavile.
Look at the ice types that were designed to be slow and bulky.
I forgot about that one. Oh.
If you want a longer explanation of the ice type's weaknesses, you can watch the video about fixing it. But if I had to explain it briefly, these are the 2 main issues. Ice's defensive relationships are really bad, and ice type Pokemon are not well built to take advantage of the type's more offensive leaning. Listen, gamers, I get it. It
Yeah.
can be really difficult to eat healthy consistently when you're
so
busy
hard.
bringing out your maximum gaming potential.
I'm just trying to video game all the time. I'm just trying to catch shiny Pokemon, and it's hard to eat. So it's hard to eat good. I can never eat good. What do I do? What do I do, Wolfie?
That's why the sponsor of today's video is Factor, a company
is?
that makes affordable, healthy meals that come together in minutes.
No
If
way.
planning and prep work stress you out.
Yeah, it
Factor
does.
has what you need.
No
If
way.
you have dietary restrictions, no sweat.
No.
Factor offers
I don't.
lots of great meals, no matter your preferences.
I'll eat
including
anything.
Vegetarian, vegan,
Cool. Nice.
calorie smart, and
Oh, that's
keto.
good.
With more than 27
I love
meal
cow.
options each week, there's something for everyone. Meal plans range from 4 to 18 meals per week.
18? I'm gonna
You
get
can
so
add
many
more
plain
or
meals.
reduce the number depending on your specific needs.
I'm gonna get
You can
18.
easily modify food preferences and skip a week if needed.
No,
Use my
I'll never
link
skip.
Or go to
Yeah.
go.factor75.com and
I will.
use code POGWOLFIE November 50 for 50% off your first box.
God, I'm gonna be
Click
so
the link in
full
the
of food.
description Or scan the QR code with your phone. It does
Yes.
seem like Game Freak was
God, I
trying
can't wait to
help
do
ice
that.
types more in recent generations. Gen 7 gave us a good ice type in Alolan Ninetales, but it also gave us the monstrosity that is Crabominable, so I personally still send everyone who worked on Gen 7 to prison if I could. There were a fair few Gen 8 ice types, but most of them, like Mr. Rhyme, Arctozolt, and Ice Cube, were
I have never seen anyone use Mr. Rhyme. I don't know what that's all about. Maybe it's because Mr. Rhyme just isn't in Scarlet and Violet. Yeah, but why do people not use him?
disappointing. That is, until the DLC dropped.
Oh yeah, Galastria. Oh, there it is.
Ice Rider were
Yeah.
so good, you could almost believe they weren't ice types. Which brings us to Scarlet and Violet, and 3 major changes to our freezing friends.
The weather.
First and most obvious buff that ice-type Pokemon received is a reworking of the Hail weather condition. The way Hail used to work is at the end of every turn, any non-ice type Pokemon would lose 1/16 of their health. This might seem decent, but in reality, it isn't very high impact, and it also doesn't really help the player that set Hail up all that much. Since
At least it gives you that Blizzard 100% accuracy, though.
Ice is such a bad type, stacking a team with ice types to take less damage from hail is kind of like adding a bunch of airbags to a car without brakes. It's still gonna hurt when you crash. Because hail has been so disappointing, I recommended changing it to be more similar to Sandstorm. Sun and Rain are clearly
Gives you the buff.
intended to be 2 sides of the same coin. with fire moves getting weaker in rain and water moves getting weaker in sun, and the two weathers having identical effects for their respective types and abilities on top of that.
So we do the
makes
same
sense
thing
then
for
that the
sand and
remaining
hail.
two weather conditions would be counterparts as well. And though both sand and hail damage Pokemon at the end of every turn, rock-type Pokemon receive a special defense boost in the sand, whereas
Those sneaky little rock types. There's a little favoritism being played here. Those pure ice types getting
Pokemon
out.
receive squat in the hail. But in Scarlet and Violet, hail was changed to snow. In snow, Pokemon no longer receive passive damage at the end of each turn.
They could have just left it exactly the same. Do the damage, but also give the defense buff.
Instead, Ice-type Pokemon get a 50% increase to their defense stats, finally making snow the counterpart of sand. This helps Ice-type Pokemon out tremendously.
But no, so they still have a buff. The Sandstorm is still technically better because you still get the buffeted, the tiny bit of chippy damage, which could be huge. It could be the decider between something knocking it out and something not knocking it out.
Directly addresses both of the major issues that ice types have.
What is this
Ice
footage?
types lack resistances. But resistances are a little less important when you can cut the damage output of all physical attacks that you receive. It's also great for the slower, bulkier ice-type Pokemon.
Which is almost all of them.
Previously, despite these Pokemon being clearly designed as tanks, they weren't able to actually function in that way because Ice's multiple weaknesses and soul resistance didn't give them enough staying power.
Dude, the editors are fucking amazing. They're going so hard on this. This is almost abuse of the ice types, I would say.
Battle. With Snow, these Pokemon suddenly become significantly harder to get off the field.
There's just so many JoJo references in
Keep
this.
in mind that you're getting more value from Snow's defense boost, the higher your defense stat is to begin with. This one change alone took several Pokemon that you'd really only use out of pity and made them actual viable threats.
Wait, really? Are people using Abomasnow
The
now?
obvious standouts are Abomasnow and Alolan Ninetales, who are the
Really?
two Pokemon who can set up snow with their abilities.
Oh, of course, the snow warning. Of course.
This is basically just an intrinsic boost to these Pokemon stats since they don't need to rely on anything else to set the snow up for them.
And in double battles, which is the majority of competitive gameplay, you get that Blizzard.
For Abomasnow, a Pokemon that previously lacked the bulk to stick around, the offense to do damage, and the speed to put pressure on the opponent,
God,
this
it's so
extra
bad.
survivability makes it easier to justify using it. For Alolan Ninetales, a Pokemon that was already one of the better ice types going into Scarlet and Violet, it suddenly
Because of the fairy type.
found itself able to compete with the big dogs.
And the fact that it was pretty speedy, had a good special attack, could spam Blizzard, and also it just had that fairy type backing it up. Although it did make it quad weak to Steel, which is a pretty good offensive type.
Even ice-type Pokemon that have literally never seen competitive play before were suddenly being used and even finding success. Articuno is a
No way.
Pokemon that has been so bad for so long that many players were questioning if it was actually a Digimon. But thanks to these changes, in Scarlet and Violet, players were finally giving it a shot.
I love the fact that they're making the really old mons relevant again. You know, the power creep. They release new things. They release their DLC mons. They release their Urshifus, their Glastrias, their Calorexes, and they're all incredibly powerful. But a meta change that allows the oldies to come back and they can still throw some fisticuffs with the new boys. That's good. We should always see that as a positive. It's just cool to see. Like, no one uses Articuno.
With its Snow Cloak ability, it becomes much harder to hit when snow is active. And with the new defense boost, it was able to actually take advantage of its respectable bulk for the first time ever. But saving the ice types of yore wasn't all these new games did. Scarlet and Violet shattered a rule hitherto thought to be completely unbreakable.
I can't believe he managed to work hitherto into a script. Like me, I just want to use whence more. Whence. I wish I could work that into videos more.
Every ice type they added was actually good. How ice type
Everyone?
or every prior generation was, first and most importantly, create the worst ice type Pokemon you can think of. Next, add a couple bulky ice types that will definitely not get any use. Lastly,
Gen 7 got rocks.
if you feel like it, try and make an ice type that has about a, 20% chance of actually being good.
Mamoswine's really good, though.
This clearly functional process didn't
yeah.
affect Paldea.
Wait, so Titan's also usable? I knew the Iron Bundle Baxcalibur and Gen Power was going to be good, but Baxcalibur too? I mean, Gen said Titan? God, there's so many names. Way too many names in these games.
4 of the new ice type Pokemon that they added are actually good. Titan is clearly the worst of the group, but finding the worst ice type in Generation 9 is like finding the worst chocolate-covered raisin in the Costco gigantic chocolate-covered raisin jar.
Okay, but let's be honest, chocolate-covered peanuts are definitely superior to raisins.
It's still good. Titan falls into the bulky ice type category, but don't let that fool you. It has a ton of tools that offset the mediocrity we've come to expect from this class of Pokemon.
It gets liquidation.
Absolutely unbelievable stats. It's
170 health points? Why do you have that many? What are Game Freak doing over there? I feel like they're just rolling dice. They'll just grab a dice. Like, all right, it's time to roll for how many health points. I rolled a 17. 170 sound good? Yeah, we're gonna do 170.
Its HP is the highest of any new Pokemon added in Scarlet and Violet. Its attack stat is good, and though its defenses are a bit below par, that's balanced by how huge its HP stat is. Its speed stat is towards the lower end, but Titan is by no means slow. And thanks to its Slush Rush ability.
Yes, 73 is deceptively quick, and with Slush Rush, that's just insanely fast. You become the fastest thing in the field easily.
Titan can double its speed whenever snow is active. This means that
and they get the defense buff, which makes them bulky and quick. And with 113 attack, like they're still going to be doing a good amount of damage too.
Just a little investment, Titan can outspeed all the major threats in the metagame.
Oh yeah.
Titan has another way of getting around its low speed stat, even if you don't have a way of setting up snow. It's Ice Shard, a relatively weak move that
just one-shot Gyarados. Wow, that's impressive. I mean, it must be banded.
Increased priority.
He's so happy.
It to move before most other attacks. You're probably thinking, but Wolf, I don't want to use a move that
I don't want to use move that's weak.
Never interrupt me again.
I'm sorry, Wolfie. You're right. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. I'm so dumb. I'm an idiot.
Now, friends, Titan is one of a very small handful of Pokemon that gets access to Belly Drum.
Yep. Oh, that's why it one-shotted. It was +6.
Move that, in exchange for giving up half of your health, maxes out your attack stat. If you want to see the power of Belly Drum in action, you can watch me ruin people's days with Snorlax.
And you definitely should. After this video, you're already subscribed to Wolfie. You have to be subscribed to Wolfie. It's one of the requirements of watching a Pokemon video on YouTube. You have to be subscribed to Wolfie.
Like Snorlax, Titan also gets the ability Thick Fat, giving it extra resistances to fire and ice. But
respectable.
Snorlax, who doesn't learn any priority moves, Ice Shard is on the table here. And at
I can't imagine why Snorlax doesn't get quick attack. It doesn't make any sense.
6 attack, Ice Shard goes from a snowball to an avalanche. There's only ever been one other notable Pokemon that has the combination of Belly Drum and a priority attack.
And a huge power.
The Azumarill has been an extremely scary Pokemon for years.
Also, Water Fairy is a great type. Wolfie Glick Masters Division Champion, no way!
I actually won a tournament with it back in 2015. And even though its attack stat is higher than Titan's, its bulk is a lot worse. I think in the right format, Titan can absolutely be a major threat. Titan didn't see a ton of competitive play in Scarlet and Violet, but that's largely due to the early months being dominated by Murkrow, which is
hilarious. I can't believe there was a time during the meta where Murkrow was such a massive threat. Everyone was just terrified of this tiny little black bird. Of all the new Pokemon that were introduced, of all the little bits of power creep that may have happened. Oh no, it's that Generation 2 Dark type. First ever Dark type representing the boys.
A sentence I never thought that I would have to say. Dondozo was one of the major threats of the early formats of Generation 9, and Murkrow with Haze to remove all of its stat boosts was a very popular counter. Unfortunately, Haze also served as a hard counter to Titan, thanks to Murkrow's Prankster giving it priority, allowing it to remove Titan's boosts before Ice Shard could KO Murkrow. Even though
Wait, it would still outspeed? If the Titan was in snow, it would get double its speed. Is Prankster +1 priority or +2? Because if the Titan outspeeds it, it could Ice Shard it before the priority goes, right? Because Ice Shard's already priority. Yeah, it has +1 priority. How fast is Murkrow?
Murkrow isn't really a thing anymore. The power level of the format has grown a little bit too much for Titan to be a major threat. But I wouldn't be surprised at all to see it doing well in future formats when new games release.
You just had to replay that clip because he loved it so much.
Of our 4 new ice types, Titan is the only one that can't really hang with the big dogs. The next best ice type, Excalibur, is meaningfully better than Titan. And that's saying something since Titan is not bad by any means. Excalibur is just
I love Wolfie's editors. They're so funny.
Built different. It's got the second highest attack stat of any of the Paldean Pokemon, second only to hero form Palafin. Its high HP and good defense stats makes it very tanky, and its speed stat puts it comfortably towards the middle of the field. On top of that, Excalibur has both a signature ability and a signature attack.
Thermal Exchange boosts the attack when you hit with a fire type move, and you can't be burned. I like how they're doubling up on the abilities of abilities now. They're really, that is a little bit of power creep. They're doubling up on things. So normal abilities, things that wouldn't get you burned before, the ability that would prevent you from getting burned, boom, doesn't matter anymore. Thermal Exchange, it's just better. Better in every single way. All those other abilities that pseudos used to get, that you think GUI is good? You think GUI's fantastic? No, not anymore. To be fair, Dragonite did get multi-scale, which is absolutely ridiculous, though.
Its ability, Thermal Exchange, is basically just the upgraded version of the ability Water Veil. Water Veil only prevents burn, which Thermal Exchange also does, but on top of that, if Excalibur gets hit by a fire-type move, this ability gives it an attack boost. Since Excalibur's attack is already as high as Landorus Therian's, my professional opinion is to not do this if your opponent has Excalibur.
Do not Flare Blitz.
Glaive Rush is equally powerful. It's 50% stronger than Dragon Claw with 100% accuracy. This is
it's insane.
Way stronger than a normal attack, so of course there's a catch.
Oh my god, I just realized that Glaive Rush is just reckless attack from D&D. Glaive Rush, once you use it, makes it so you guaranteed get hit by opponents' moves and they do more damage. D&D reckless attack gives the opponents advantage on attacks against you, as well as getting advantage on attacks against them. It's the same thing. Oh, they've been taking some notes, I see.
The downside of using this move is if you hit something with it, all damage Excalibur takes is doubled until the next time it moves. Now, this might...
Hey, you know what the best defense is? The best defense is having no opponents left to attack you. The best crowd control is killing all of the enemies. If you Glaive Rush something and you've got boosted attack, there's not going to be anyone left on the field to hit you anyway, so it's fine. You don't have to worry about the side effects.
Might seem like a pretty major drawback, but in reality, it's quite manageable. That's because you can easily get around it by using priority moves. Not only does Excalibur learn the always useful Protect, which can be used to both keep it safe and shrug off Glaive Rush's downside.
I really wonder how VGC would change if they just restricted Protect to just a set few bulky Pokemon that would protect themselves naturally, because everything can learn Protect. So what if they couldn't anymore? I want to see a VGC meta where no one can use Protect. Just for a little bit, just as a treat. Yeah, I just finished my team sheet for the new meta. I'm a little bit worried about it. Can you take a look and tell me what you think? Yeah, let's just have a look at why your Pokemon only have 3 moves. Well, yeah, they banned Protect. Why don't you use another move? There are other moves?
It also gets Ice Shard. While Excalibur doesn't have the ability to take clean one-hit KOs with Ice Shard like Titan does, it's still a good move that can be used to finish off low HP foes or combo with a fast partner's attack. The last reason Glaive Rush's downside isn't that big of a deal is because of Excalibur's speed stat.
87's pretty good.
Because it's slower than a lot of the more common threats in the game, Excalibur will often be the last Pokemon attacking on a turn. While for most Pokemon this would be a weakness, Excalibur actually benefits from being the last to move because it can use Glaive Rush without fearing Pokemon doing double damage in the same turn.
And it's pretty bulky.
Cancel out the negative effect with an Ice Shard or Protect. Excalibur also benefited a ton from 2 brand new items introduced in Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah, you get the loaded dice. The Clear Amulet is... I never really saw the appeal in the Clear Amulet, but I do understand in a meta that's dominated by Intimidate, that is pretty good. You can't have your stats lowered by an opposing Pokemon's abilities. And Intimidate is so powerful. And you know, when Incineroar comes back in, which it inevitably will, this is going to be pretty big. Excalibur is going to be decent against Incineroar because it'll have a way to counteract the fire type moves. It'll have a way to just disregard the Intimidates. It'll be pretty good.
Amulet prevents its stats from being lowered, meaning if it ever gets an attack boost, there's no way to lower it again without knocking it out or forcing it to switch. Excalibur can also use the loaded dice item, which causes all multi-hit moves to hit a minimum of 4 times. Combine this with its moves Icicle Spear and Scale Shot, and you get very high power moves that can even KO Pokemon holding a Focus Sash and just do tons of damage in general. Excalibur won 1 of the 3 international level tournaments this season.
That's pretty good though. Like, most Pokemon aren't winning international tournaments. You go ahead, ask Hypno how many international tournaments he's been winning. Ask Mr. Mime. Ask Tauros. How many international tournaments are they winning? Not many.
Not being the most popular pick overall. And with the introduction of Alolan Ninetales back into the game with the Teal Mask DLC, many players are finding success making Excalibur even tankier, thanks to the addition of a stronger Snow setter.
God, Alola Ninetales and Shiny is just not good. I wish it was good.
Trying to get rid of Excalibur in the snow with Auroraville up is like trying to take cheese out of a cheesecake. Two of the new Ice-type Pokemon have been more popular than Excalibur. Iron Bundle is one of my favorite new Pokemon because whoever is normally in charge of designing the fast ice types of the generation clearly got sick for the day, and the person who was filling in snuck in a good one while they could. Iron Bundle is the fastest Pokemon introduced in Scarlet and Violet. While its bulk is somewhat lacking, it isn't as frail as classical super fast Pokemon like Electrode and Ninjask, and its high defense stat allows it to not just
It's 114 defense? Where did it find that? Is it because its body made it robot?
melt under the pressure. In addition to its bonkers speed, Iron Bundle's high special attack stat means if you ignore it, you'll get left out in the cold. Excalibur, Iron Bundle's
God, he's always with the jokes. He's always this guy. He's a little kidder. He's always with the pranks.
secondary typing makes it much stronger than if it were a pure ice type. Defensively, the water type cancels out ice's weaknesses to steel and fire. And offensively, it's able to pressure the rock type Pokemon who would otherwise spook our Metal Penguin.
What is the ball that it's holding? Do we know? Do we have an explanation on that one?
Offensively, all secondary types add an additional dimension to a Pokemon's coverage, but for Iron Bundle, this is even more true than for most other Pokemon. This is because of the move Freeze Dry. While on the surface, Freeze Dry looks just like any other ice type move, it's got a special property. Even though water Pokemon resist ice attacks, if
which I think is weird. I think it's weird that water Pokemon resist ice, as if the ice is cold enough, in theory, it will freeze the water.
Freeze Dry hits a water type Pokemon, it will do super effective damage. What happens when you combine this move with Iron Bundle's water type coverage? You end up
really
with a
good
combination without a single resistance in the entire game.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Right. There is no combination of types or single type you can give your Pokemon that will resist both water moves and Freeze Dry. As if all this wasn't enough, as a Paradox Pokemon, Iron Bundle can make use of the Booster Energy item.
Someone at Game Freak really likes Delibird.
This is a great item in general. It allows players to do one of two things. They can either sacrifice a ton of investment in the speed of their Iron Bundle in order to make it much tankier, and then use the Booster Energy to offset the speed that they would otherwise lose to still end up faster than everything else, or
seems like a good idea.
Iron Bundle to maximize its speed and special attack anyway, which allows it to become so fast that it can even outspeed opposing Pokemon when they have Tailwind set up. But
Tailwind. I did not think about Tailwind. How common is Tailwind realistically, though? I mean, it's a big buff in duel battles, especially. I wonder how much usage it has.
About Iron Bundle is that it's an offensive Pokemon that can still function in a supportive role. With Icy Wind, Iron Bundle is one of the best ways of controlling the speed of the battle. And
speed control is very important
this year with Encore on Iron Bundle as well. It's nice to have a Pokemon that can both be offensive and support the team.
Oh my God, the editors, they edited the fucking hand so that it comes over the head of the Fluttermane. They masked the hand out so they could put the Fluttermane head underneath it, but over the head of the original person. That must have taken ages to do. I respect that.
Since it's very easy to fit Icy Wind, even on offensive movesets. It allows you, as the player, to play very fluidly with Iron Bundle, using it to disrupt your opponent or pressure big damage, depending on what you need.
Ooh, look at that.
Bundle does have a major drawback.
Oh no.
Its only real water type attack is Hydro Pump.
Which is absolutely awful. It also is very strange that it is only Hydro Pump. Why? I mean, I know that they took Scald away from pretty much everyone because they were like, oh, no more Scalding anymore. It's too centralizing. Anyway, everyone still gets Protect. Don't forget about that one. Everyone's still gonna get Protect.
Hydro Pump is unfortunately only 85% accurate, which means it'll let you down more often than the Milwaukee Bucks in 2014. For someone like me who pretty
that felt like it had some heart behind it. That felt like I could feel the pain of that message.
Much never uses moves with accuracy below 90%. This can make Iron Bundle feel really inconsistent. So much so that when I ran that Encore Iron Bundle that I mentioned, I actually dropped Hydro Pump to ensure that I never missed. Despite Hydro Pump's inconsistency, Iron Bundle saw a ton of success throughout the year, but not as much success as Chen Pao.
Look at that boy. That's a good boy.
Pokemon. One of the 4 new Treasures of Ruin, Chen Pao's great stats, well-positioned offensive typing, amazing move pool, and absurd ability put it clearly at the top as one of the best new Pokemon in Generation 9, period.
The goodest boy. What is it, like a snow leopard?
In fact, Chen-Pao is only the second Ice-type Pokemon ever to win the World Championships, with the first
What was the
being
first?
Mamoswine back in 2013.
Hey, see, Mamoswine, round of applause. Honestly, deserves it. No one deserves it more than Mamoswine. Congratulations. I'm very proud of you. It's a big moment, and it is frankly incredibly deserved.
Chen-Pao was tied as the second fastest new Pokemon with Fluttermane.
Oh no, not speed ties. No, not speed ties. They're the worst. They're the worst things. Speed ties, we don't like them. They're the worst things.
Speed point below Iron Bundle. It's also got a great
It is so funny that Iron Bundle has 136. They made it just to outspeed Fluttermane. They're like, ooh, the past thinks it's really fast. No, the future's got the turbo.
stat and decent enough defenses for such a fast and strong Pokemon. But that isn't what makes it remarkable. That would be its ability, Sword of Ruin. It lowers the defense stats of all other Pokemon on the field by a quarter as long as Chen-Pao is out.
But think about it, the Chen-Pao does not actually have a sword. Where the sword's not in its mouth, it's a sash in its mouth. It's not a sword. Where is the sword coming from, Game Freak? Where is the sword?
Only is this basically a damage boost on all of Chen-Pao's moves because it's a physical attacker, but it also opens up some really nasty offensive combinations like
Imagine using Sword of Ruin and Baxcalib as Glaive Rush.
Dragonite and Chen-Pao Dragapult and Chen-Pao Dragonborn. Basically,
Nice.
if you combine a physical attacker that can't be slowed down by Intimidate and Fake Out with some way of moving first, whether it be priority attacks like Extreme Speed or just an incredibly high base speed, with Chen-Pao
Yeah, Terra normal extreme speed from a Dragonite, an Adamant Dragonite, with a Sword of Ruin Chen-Pao on the field. Ooh, that's disgusting.
Sword of Ruin and high speed of its own, you're able to KO most Pokemon in the game before they can move. This never would have been possible without Sword of Ruin, but thanks to Chen-Pao, that big
There they go again.
damage amplification turns these otherwise strong attacks into nightmare threats. Not that you need to lean into such an offensive direction to use Chen-Pao. It's an incredibly flexible Pokemon, in part because its ability works so well at just supporting itself. Chen-Pao typically runs Protect, Sucker Punch.
The editor must just have an entire folder full of stock footage and every Pokemon's head cut out so that they can just put it on the heads of all the stock people.
Punch, Sacred Sword, and then either Icicle Crash or Ice Spinner. This gives it Ice and Dark moves to benefit from its typing.
I've one shot Regieleki?
Move in Sacred Sword that not only hits Dark, Ice, Rock, and Steel types for super effective damage, but it also lets it ignore defense boosts, which has been relevant more often than I would have expected this year. So not only did Game Freak rework the failing Hail weather condition to
Does it ignore the defense boost that you get from snow and hail, though? In theory, if you use a Sacred Sword.
They also added 4 new great Ice-type Pokemon. And there's one more major buff that Ice-type Pokemon
way,
received
another
as a
one?
Scarlet and Violet, though isn't
thinking about it.
immediately obvious.
What?
I'm talking about terrestrialization. This
Oh, yeah,
might
of course.
seem like a weird thing to bring up when talking about buffs for Ice types.
Yeah, you can just not be that type anymore. Just be a different type, idiot.
I mean, all Pokemon can terrestrialize, but Ice-type Pokemon on the whole benefited more than any single other type in the game from Generation 9's
Because
unique mechanics.
They don't have to be an ice type anymore.
How terrestrialization works. When you terrestrialize into a type that isn't a type that you already are,
You retain your
keep
stab.
all of the original
Yep.
offensive benefits of your types.
For some reason, people don't get this. I've had so many people in the comment section of my videos saying, why did you terrestrialize? You lose the stab from your dark moves on your Incineroar when you try Terra Fire or something like that. Obviously, Incineroar's not in the game. That's just an example. People don't seem to understand that you still get the stab from your original type. And if you terrestrialize into a type that you are and use that move, you just get another additional buff on the original stab that you had. I mean, it's not really explained in the game, but people pointing out that, oh, you're an idiot, you're wrong, you're doing the wrong thing, when they're actually wrong is kind of funny.
In a new offensive boost to whatever you terrestrialize into, and replace all of your original defensive relationships with whatever the new type's defensive relationships are.
Just
In other
Terra Seal
words,
everything.
Terrestrialization keeps your offense mostly the same, but it changes your defense completely. See where this is going? Ice types are strong offensively. It's defensively where they really struggle. Terrestrialization then is the perfect tool. Change your defense completely and keep your offense as is. Ice benefits more than any other type in the game from this because it's the most lopsided when it comes to offense versus defense. You might expect the type that benefits
Yeah, I guess the ice types are usually naturally bulky. So if you terrestrialize them into a type that doesn't have many weaknesses, then you've got a naturally bulky Pokemon that has very good offensive capabilities and doesn't really have that many defensive drawbacks anymore because it's not the same type anymore.
the most from terrestrialization would be the worst type in the game, since it's the most incentivized to change its type in the first place. In my
But Bug?
opinion, that would be Bug. But the thing is that Bug has the opposite problem as Ice.
I feel like Bug is bad on purpose because they're bugs.
Defensive resistances to grass, ground, and fighting are all very relevant in the current format.
I mean, when you're the Pokemon equivalent of Weevil Underwood from Yu-Gi-Oh, that's gonna hit you. No one's gonna like you as much.
But Bug only hits 3 types for super effective damage, and none of them are incredible top-tier types. While Terrestrialization does allow Bug types to improve their offensive dimension by a little bit, it isn't as high value compared to Ice types that can completely change all of their weaknesses and resistances. Of course, this buff only matters for Generation 9. It's highly unlikely that Terrestrialization will make
Oh,
it to
true.
Generation
That's right.
10.
There's going to be another gimmick. Honestly, I think most people generally come together and they say, actually, Terrestrialization is really cool because you can make some really sick plays. It opens the door for so many more Pokemon to be good and be usable. I think everyone would be okay if we just had Terrestrialization in the next game. I know everyone's like, oh, Mega Evolutions, Mega Evolutions. Don't get me wrong. I love Mega Evolutions as well, but Terrestrialization just competitively and just by the fun factor and the strategic factor just makes more sense.
Still, it's a big factor in allowing Ice-type Pokemon to win more tournaments this season than they ever have before. These
Well done,
3
guys.
major buffs combined led to a huge upheaval in Ice's overall viability. I like to think about how good the types are relative to each other. And back in Sword and Shield, I came out with a ranking that I felt pretty good about. I placed Ice at 17th out of 18 types.
That's
Second
rough.
to the bottom, only behind the Bug type. But when Scarlet and Violet came out, it was
bumping it
obvious
up?
that my old rankings were outdated. So
gonna
once
do a
again,
new one?
I sat down and ranked every type in the game. And to my shock, I found that I couldn't put Ice any lower than 12th overall.
That's
This
a big,
is an enormous
that's
jump in
great.
viability, but it makes sense when you consider just how much love Ice types got in Scarlet and Violet.
Good.
I think it's really cool. Ice has been one of the worst
okay.
types since the
Alright.
very beginning of the series. So to suddenly make major changes and have them pay off, I gotta give props to the developers. It makes me wonder if maybe in future generations, Bug
Yo,
type
is
Pokemon
Bug gonna
get
go
some love.
insane?
I think most of the other types are fine as they are, but
Are they all fun? Yeah, I mean, most of them are pretty good. It doesn't really feel like one type is hilariously underpowered compared to another type.
Bug has been really struggling for years.
Off from Bug.
For now,
They keep making fucking things like Spidops. Game Freak hates bugs. I'm 100% sure. You might say, oh, but Pokemon was originally incepted because the first person really liked bugs and he would go and collect bugs, so he made Pokemon instead. No, not true. Well, I mean, it's true, but they still hate bugs. You know what I hate? I hate it when people don't subscribe to Wolfie Glick. I hate it when people don't subscribe to Wolfie VGC and watch all of his videos because they're all really, really good, and he has so many new ones. Just look. Oh, were Scarlet and Violet as bad as we thought? There'll be never be another player like Ray Rizzo, how he trolled a Pokemon tournament. There's so many good freaking videos out there and you're not watching them and it makes me upset. But hey, time to chill. If you want some delicious beverages, caffeine or caffeine free, then you can get some gamer subs using code Patterrz with international shipping and less than $1 per serving. It's a good idea. It'll save you money in the long run. Do it freaking right now. Code Patterrz.